Hello everyone. It's Ian from Cromford Collector's Corner. I'm here today because... Sorry, one second. I'm just going to put those little Daleks down. I'm here today because people have kindly asked me about my opinions on last night's Doctor Who. Okay. So I'm just going to put these things back there. Brilliant. I've written some notes. So what I will say before I go any further is if you have not watched the most recent episode, the season finale of Doctor Who, then stop watching this video now because I'm going to talk about some pretty major stuff that happened in it. So if you've not seen it yet, stop watching and go and watch it. So I'm going to say that I've only just watched the episode once last night. I've not watched Doctor Who Unleashed or whatever. So this is just kind of my initial reaction. So as I said, spoilers. Stop watching. Generally, my reaction, which has been similar to quite a lot of this sort of Disney era. In fact, really, the last few years, is kind of like, oh God, don't do that. Oh, it's not too bad. Oh God, don't do that. Oh, it's not too bad. Oh God. So some of it I've really enjoyed. I try not to be sort of negative about things, but there are a few things that for me detracted from the show, and I'm going to talk about some stuff that I wasn't a huge fan of. But generally, I'm going to try and be positive because, there's a good reason why, and we'll come to that. And my culmination of this little chat might get a little bit deep, So obviously, we have now seen the end of Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor. In general, I've not hated. I've not hated this era. It's been peaks and troughs. There's been some good stuff and there's been some not good stuff. Very similar to Doctor Who in general over the years. So I don't think there's anything new about that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the things that I wasn't a huge fan of first. And then I'll come on to the more positive stuff. And then we'll kind of wrap it up with a general chat about where we think it's going and about some of the sort of broader themes that I think, although sometimes difficult to talk about, we do need to talk about it. Increased representation and all that stuff. It's quite important, and I think we shouldn't get into a position where we're sort of scared to talk about that. So generally, as I said, my sort of negative points are that if we split the episode into kind of two acts, for me, the first act was it was a little bit cheesy, if I'm honest. And again, it's not like the show hasn't been cheesy in the past. I just thought some of it was a little bit heavy-handed and a little bit cheesy. Whereas I thought the second act was much improved. What did we think about Omega? So obviously I was wrong. I was wrong about the Daleks. No multi-million-dollar Dalek. Bit of a shame. However, we're going to come back to that. But I was right about Omega. How did I feel about the Omega thing? I thought it was a little bit of a fail to kind of do another giant CGI monster villain at the end. For me, I would have rather seen an actor portray Omega. I think for me, it would have given it a little bit more gravitas. It did feel a little shoehorned in, but I do wonder whether all this stuff is going to come back. But again, we'll talk about that. I'm not hugely a fan of changes to the kind of canon of the show, but I didn't really mind the kind of sterile nature of the Time Lords. That sort of made sense to me. Okay, all right, it kind of worked. I did thought that the sort of child thing was like, as I said, like, oh my God, what are we doing here? To like, oh okay, it's sad, but I prefer it. I thought that was all right. I thought, yeah, it was okay. It was kind of cool. I'm not sure that the show made a huge amount of sense. There was a lot of stuff in it that I was like, what? The regeneration sort of superpowers that the Doctor seems to have developed. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. But okay. If there was one point that that I really struggled with, and it's a very difficult thing to kind of criticize someone's performance. Now, no actor sets out to do a bad job, right? So while it's very easy to criticize, I think a lot of actors, they've got a lot going on, and they're trying their best. So with that in mind, I think some of the casting of the show, I think, has been kind of dictated by other factors, and particularly the kind of unit team I find quite difficult to watch, if I'm honest. I think some of the performances are not great. I'm not going to single anyone out, but I just generally found, and I'm not talking just about actors with physical disabilities either. I thought the Mel stuff was like, ooh, okay. I quite like the scene with the Rani and her, but there was some like kind of scenery chewing performances in that I was like, okay. So really, those are my only criticisms. And some of it will come back towards the end when we talk about representation, increased representation. Positives. There were lots of positives. I thought some of it was really, really good, and some of it less so, but some of it was really good. I am a massive Murray Gold fan. I love Murray Gold's music. I love the Doctor's theme. I'm not sure that the Doctor's theme, it's got a slightly kind of Thunderbirdsy kind of vibe. I'm not sure it really fitted with Chuty, but I love Murray Gold. I know some people find his music a bit, over the top, but I certainly didn't. I like that. I think the effects, again, while not faultless, well, it's a huge step forward, let's be honest. We are a long way away from kind of shaky scenery and stuff like that. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. I thought the second act of the show was much better than the first. There were some great performances in it. The two ladies that played the Rani, older and younger, I thought were brilliant. But particularly the younger version of Rani, I thought she really nailed it. And if I was to sort of take one performance out of all of it, she was the one that I was like, oh my God, she really is the Rani. She played it like super straight, and I was like, that was really good. I liked her. I was a little bit disappointed the way she bowed out, but I was pleased that Mrs. Flood survived. But it does mean the Doctor is not the last of the Time Lords, right? But yeah, okay. Yeah, loved the Ranis. Loved seeing the old Doctors. And I wasn't a huge fan of Jodie Whittaker's era. I like Jodie, but I'm not a massive fan of the era. But I have to say, I thought that was wicked. I thought it was really cool to see her come back. And I was just talking to a gentleman this morning, and I think he absolutely correct saying that in the 3 minutes that Jodie appeared on screen, Russell Davies wrote her so much better than Chris Chibnall did. I think again it sort of like, oh, that's a bit of a shame. Jodie was actually probably pretty good, and it's a bit of a shame that she was sort of let down, I think, by that era of the show. So I'm going to talk a little bit about something that's, as I said, quite difficult to talk about in terms of increased representation of the diversity of our nation, right? So I think one of the reasons that I think a lot of people get very upset about Doctor Who, or the sort of woke criticism and all this sort of stuff, is that I think particularly for a certain era of fans, I'm not going to generalize too much, but it's a certain sort of era of people that are very, very negative about the show, and that's because I think it ties into their sense of identity. because it's formative. It's what they watched when they were a kid. It was really important to them, and it's part of who they are. And so I think when you start to kind of erode someone's sense of identity, that's when we really start to get people getting upset. However, I would say that the world has moved on, and we are no longer a nation of white men. We are an incredibly diverse nation, and while there are people being represented in it now that previously were not getting a lot of representation on television in general. I'm talking about different ethnicities of people with different abilities, sexualities, all of that, right? Now, I am a straight guy, straight, white, middle-class man, okay? Is it important that people that are not me feel represented in some way, and therefore benefit in a way that my generation and the generations before me also benefited, help their sense of identity? Right? So can we criticize the fact that people that are previously been poorly represented are being allowed to be represented more equally? That's got to be a good thing, right? I know people get very upset about it, but the truth is, surely everyone deserves the right to their doctor, right? Like we did. So I'm pleased, obviously, that there is more diversity, not just within Doctor Who, but within media and television and things in general. That can only be a good thing. I think it will benefit society if people feel that they are part of the club, right? If we just constantly never show anyone that's black or gay or disabled, then that's a huge part of society which is not part of the team. They're not allowed to play with us. That is not a great thing, right? So so I'm pro representation. I'm pro increased representation. However, and this is quite a big however, I think we need to be really, really careful that the political motivations behind these things do not overtake storytelling. What is this? What is the BBC's role? It's to educate and inform and entertain. Am I right? So that is really important. However, I do think that at times, particularly some of the casting and the nature, the level of some of the performances, that some of the politically driven meaning is taking over the storytelling, and that is where I have a problem. So if I were to go back to sort of some of the unit cast, I don't mean to be offensive towards anybody, but in my opinion, some of the quality of the performances detracted from the storytelling. Now that I do have a problem with. It's a little bit like going back to Tootie crying all the time. Russell Davies saying, "Oh well, you don't stop an actor crying," and it's not about that. It's about telling the story and the character and all of that stuff. And I think in any form of art, if you start to allow, it becomes something different. It's not that it isn't important. It is important. Of course it's important. Is it any different to what it's been before? No. The show has always had politically motivated opinions and messages and thought-provoking stuff, and that's important. That's science fiction, right? But we can't allow it to reduce the quality of the art because the level of the performances of the people detract from the art, if you get me. So, simplified, I would say, yes, of course it needs to be a diverse cast. Of course it does. But find good actors. You're not telling me that there aren't wheelchair users or other members of the cast that cannot turn a better performance than that. I thought it detracted from the programme. And that is a massive problem. Anyway, so I'm going to start to sort of wrap up. I know I've already talked for like 15 minutes. So, what do I feel about this spin-off? Eesh. If it's like unit focused, I'm concerned. I'm not sure about that. Eesh. Yeah. Where are we going? Where is the show going? Obviously, we're now waiting to hear whether Disney are going to keep going or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if Disney dropped it, if I'm honest. But do I think the BBC will drop it? Absolutely not. It's one of the biggest money earners for the BBC. And at a time when we're, I suspect over the next few years, look to removing of the television license, that's a massive thing. They're not going to drop it. It's not going to happen. Yeah, I'm going to just talk briefly about where I think sort of in universe the show is going. I said before that I wasn't sure whether any of this is real. The events of the episode, particularly the regeneration, obviously into what appears to be someone that looks like Rose Tyler. Yeah, my guess is, and I said this before, my guess is that none of this is real. And I think it goes back to the very beginning of Russell Davies coming back. So when did Russell Davies take over starting writing duties again? Was it not Jodie's regeneration into Tennant? Yeah, I'm not sure that from that moment on that this is the Doctor. And there's quite a few reasons why. We've talked about the crying. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. The Doctor's belief kind of in the supernatural. Since when? The episode where he tortured that guy? That's not the Doctor, is it? And then regenerating into Rose? To me, it implies that Jodie's regeneration into Tennant from that moment on is not right. If you remember, when Jodie regenerated to Tennant, the clothes changed. Now, one of the really iconic moments of Doctor Who is the new Doctor being dressed in the old Doctor's outfit, right? So Tom Baker, Pete Davison in Tom Baker's outfit and all that. It's like a trope in the show. So when his clothes changed when he regenerated, that made no sense to me. And at the time, I do remember, I'll misquote this completely, but Russell Davies said he didn't want there to be, lots of talk about kind of transgender issues with, David Tennant wearing Jodie's female outfit. In retrospect, having just watched this season, really? That sounds like not true to me. I genuinely don't think Russell Davies is worried too much about, representation. Anyway, so that's my guess with that, is that from that moment on, this isn't the Doctor. I'm going to leave it with one last moment, and that is that could it possibly be? We haven't seen the Cybermen, we haven't seen the Daleks, we haven't seen any of that. Could be a rights issue, of course, with Terry Nation's estate. However, would it surprise me that somehow, from Jodie's regeneration into Tennant, that this is to do with the Daleks? You will remember, of course, and my last final note on my paper here, I've written, Daleks, sneaky buggers. Would it surprise me that it turned out that all of this is fake and somehow it's to do with the Daleks? Keep in mind that Rose went to a alternate universe. The Daleks were there, right? In the gap, the void. Daleks, sneaky buggers. Keep that in mind. Right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I think I've talked for long enough. I'm at the shop at the moment, so if you reply to this and comment and stuff, I may not get a chance to reply to later on. But overall, I enjoyed it. Some of it was bonkers. Some of it was really good. There we go. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you later. Bye.